Hello everyone, this is Prayana Subba, Assistant Professor in the Department of History, Salesian College, Sanada, tuning into Radio Salesian EduPod's lecture series. Today is the fifth lecture for the topic Emergence of Successor States after the downfall of the Mughals. In the last lecture, we talked about the rise of Marathas. We were discussing the second category of the regional states formed by the rebel states. And under that, we started up with Marathas, and we saw after the death of Shivaji how there was court factionalism, but how still there was a rise of Marathas under the leadership of the Peshwas. And then we were discussing the third battle of Panipat and the death of the Peshwa Nana Sahib. So we see that in the third battle of Panipat, Marathas are finally defeated by the forces of Ahmad Shah Abdali, and Peshwa also dies within few weeks, and then he was succeeded by his son Madhav Rao. But then there was court factionalism. Madhav Rao was not supported very much by the other tribes, and then what happens is in the year 1772 he dies, and after that his uncle Raghunath Rao contends for the throne. But again there is court factionalism, and then what happens is Raghunath Rao sought the help of British for the throne. So when British finally interferes in the court politics of the Marathas, finally the history of Maratha takes a different turn after that, because British were now new contenders for the power. In 18th century, they were not contending just for the power in the Maratha state, but they were the contenders of power for the whole of India in the 18th century. So that is how we see the decline of the Marathas. They gained prominence. They were powerful once under the leadership of Chhatrapati, and then after that we see the power was transferred into the hands of Peshwa. But then finally there was a deadly blow to the glory by the third battle of Panipat. Now, what were the reasons for the decline of the Mughals is that, they could have succeeded or replaced the Mughals and formed a pan-Indian empire that we have mentioned earlier, but it was their own structure in the polity which was the reason for the decline. Number one was the nature of confederacy. Their power was not centralized. It was being divided into the Bhonsle of Nagpur, Gaikwad of Baroda, Holkar of Indore, Scindia of Gwalior, who were important military leaders, and it was very much difficult to control them. And they were increasing factionalism. Their opinions were different, and they were rivalry to each other. There was no union, and that is the reason behind their decline also. The other reason was the local mirastars or the Deshmukhs or the village headmen, the revenue collectors in the local level. They inherited their watan rights, and they exercised local powers, political powers. They resolved their own disputes, and their loyalty was given to the local jamindars. They were not loyal to the central authority, and they were opposed to the centralized concept of kingship also. So when Maratha tried to please them by offering or distributing temporary and transferable land rights, which was called Saranjam, they were not fully appeased, which Frank Perlin argues by saying it could not stand against the traditional hierarchies of the power. They were very much happy with their own hierarchical lands and their own local powers and paying loyalties to their local jamindars, but they were opposed to any concept of central authority. So those were the factors which led to the decline of the Mughals. There was no unity, and they were not they were similar to that of the Mughals also. In the same context, if we have to discuss the relation between the Marathas and the Mughals, we have various historians commenting on that. Irfan Habib says Marathas were having the rebel nature against the Mughals. They were the outcome of the Jamindari revolt against the oppressive Mughals. They had the rebel nature, Marathas. Whereas on the other hand, Satish Chandra said that Marathas had the regional nature. They never thought of forming a empire consolidating the whole of India, but they always had the regional thought, regional supremacy in their head. Like they never thought of having a pan-Indian empire. They were just concentrating. Their priority was taken India, though they made several raids and they won over the northern India also, but they were never formed an empire. Whereas on the other hand, Andhra Wing says that Marathas were very much within the Mughal tradition. Power was on the notion of sedition or fitna. There was no rebellion against the Mughal authority. They always acknowledged the Mughal authority, which I am not fully agreeing upon. Like they were not acknowledging the Mughal authority. They were quite independent. Though they tried to, according to Andhra Wing, though they tried to establish some kind of administration in Malwa, Khandes and parts of Gujarat, it looked like, more or less it looked like those of the Mughal administration. That is what Andhra Wing thinks. And the only difference between the Mughals and the Marathas was, in the Maratha administration, Brahmins or the revenue collectors, they did not perform the military duty. But on the other hand, in the Mughal system, whether it was revenue collector or anyone, they had to perform military duties. Other than this, it is believed that the Mughals were the fountainhead of social and political life for the Marathas. The things like local loyalties, court factionalism were all similar to that of the Mughals. But Marathas, while Mughals declined because of their weak successors and also because of the court factionalism, Maratha declined not so much because of the court factionalism, but because of an increasing power of British. Its army was, this Maratha's army was inefficient over those of the British. So here also we see that the power of the Marathas went from being a rebel state against the Mughals to those into the hands of the British. Like after that we see the last Peshwa, Raghunath Rao, he finally gets the support of British, and then British interferes into their polity, and then many battles are fought with the Marathas, like many Anglo-Maratha wars are fought, and finally Maratha, the whole of the territory of Maratha also is captured by the British. Like slowly we see that these successor states, all of these successor states were passing from the hands of Mughals to those of the British. Now next in the category, or in the second category, is that of Sikh, or the power in the North India. Sikh power in the northern India, in the provinces of Punjab, was consolidated over the ideologies of Guru Nanak. They were as old as those of the Mughals. In the year 1469, Guru Nanak was born. He preached his ideologies of bhakti, and that was the beginning of Sikhism. He attracted many millions of devotees, and under subsequent gurus, like there were as many as 10 gurus, they acquired different shapes and definitions, the ideology of Sikhism. What was the relation with Mughals is that Aurangzeb was initially not hostile with them, but then as they grew into their size and community, challenged the Mughal authority, and the 9th Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, was executed in Delhi in the year 1657. And that is when this Sikh got their military, got organized into the Brotherhood of Khalsa, and they formed their military organization, It was the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, in the year 1699, who established the Brotherhood of Khalsa. He initiated his disciples through a ceremony. They had to maintain 5 distinctive insignia. They had unkempt hair. They were given weapons, and then public vows were made. And why they organized themselves into this Brotherhood of Khalsa, or the military organization, was also because they had to defend themselves against the Mughals. Since their gurus were now being executed, they had to protect themselves. So we see like they organized themselves into these military groups. Moreover, there was the rise of Jat peasantry also. Jat had the tradition of carrying arms, and like they always solved their local disputes by themselves, and that was a part of Jat culture, and that gave Khalsa gave military outfit to the Sikh community. Though all Sikh were not included in this Khalsa, but Sikh community got this characteristic after they were organized into Khalsa. The Sikh community's aspiration was further equalized when Guru Gobind Singh decided to dominate the position of the Guruship. Like, after him, there were no more Gurus to be inheriting the position. The entire power was to be wrested into the Panth and the Granth, or the sacred texts. And now the Sikhs tried to construct a distinctive Sikh social and political, their own identity. So that is how their contest began with the Mughals. Sikhs continued their contest with the Mughals in the year 1696, when Guru Gobind Singh tried to carve out autonomous domain in and around the regions of Anandpur. He invited the hostility of the hill chiefs of Himachal Pradesh. When this chief approached Mughal Faujdar for protection, the combined forces of the Mughals and the Himachal Pradesh chiefs, they drove away Guru in the year 1704. But Aurangzeb he soon reversed his plan, and then he sought to conciliate Guru. But when Aurangzeb died, Guru had to manage his affairs with the next Badshah, that was Bahadur Shah, in the year 1707, who promised to return Anandpur to Guru. But then Bahadur Shah had to appease hill chief, and then that took a lot of time, and he kept postponing the thing. Meanwhile, on 7th October 1708, the Guru Gobind Singh was also murdered, and then after his murder, the Sikhs, they were very much angry, and one of the followers of the Guru was Banda Bahadur. He was now taking up the task of the Sikh Revolt, and he took up the charge of revenging over his Guru's murder. And then he contested with the Mughals, taking the leadership of the Sikhs. He contested for Majha and Doab, where Jat peasants were under tremendous Mughal pressure. But not all but small Malguzari zamindars supported Banda Bahadur. But the areas between Jamuna and Ravi came under his administration. He also appointed his own officials, minted coins and seals were used for the orders. In 1710, Bahadur Shah tried to crush Banda Bahadur, but then he failed. In 1713, Farooq Shah appointed Abdus Samad Khan as the Faujdar of Lahore to subdue the Sikh rebellion, but again he also failed. Now we see that the power of the Sikh being converted from a religious organization, from the ideology of bhakti which was preached by Guru Nanak, converting into the Khalsa, and that the factor for that conversion may be the Mughal pressure upon them and the murder of the Sikh Gurus. That is what compelled the Sikhs to take up this military organization, to create the military organization and take up swords against the against the Mughals. And we also saw the termination of the Guruship after Guru Gobind Singh and taking up of the charge of the Sikh Revolt by Banda Bahadur. In the next class, we will discuss about the challenges which were faced by Banda Bahadur, and then the rise of Sikh, his death, and then after rise of Sikh under the various missiles, and then finally the rise of Ranjit Singh, his administration, and finally how he maintained the balance of power, and then finally the decline of the Sikh into the hands of the British. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, you can always clear your doubts and contact me for further explanation. Thank you so much. We will meet in the next lecture.
This and other episodes of Radio EduPods, Radio for Learning, are available on Listen to My Radio app at 6 p.m. from Monday to Friday. and at 6 a.m. from Tuesday to Saturday. All episodes are available on Salesian TV YouTube channel. Share, like and subscribe Salesian TV, the ultimate learning resource channel.